All right, we'll call our council meeting to order at 6:01 p.m. The town of Coalhurst is located in traditional Blackfoot Confederacy territory. We honor the Blackfoot people and their traditional ways of knowing and caring for this land, as well as all Indigenous peoples who have helped shape and continue to strengthen our community. We'll move right into the adoption of the agenda. Is there any opposition to the agenda as presented? Oh, all right. And then we'll go to the previous minutes. We have the minutes from February 20th. Is there any opposition to the minutes? Oh, all right. So moving right along, we've got our first delegation tonight. So we've got staff, is it Staff Sergeant or is it Sergeant?
Staff Sergeant.
Staff Sergeant Newman, okay. So you can come in and sit in our table if you'd like. We're trying a new configuration.
I like it.
All right, so I'll just turn it right over to you and you can take us through what you brought to us. But thank you for coming today. I was saying the other day, I was like, oh, we just saw him not long ago, so it's nice to have you back.
Yeah, it's been a little while when you think back, so we're good to go? Okay. I had actually stopped in for coffee with Sean, I don't know, 3 weeks ago, and we were saying the same thing, but timely because it's end of 2023, so I thought I'd present to you a 5-year, or I guess a 3-year snapshot of the calls for the town of Coaldale. The statistician that did this up for me is out of Edmonton. I don't think she realized that this is a town, not a village, but anyways, or that it used to be a village back in the day and they haven't changed it. So I'll get that changed for the next time. I apologize for that. But so yeah, you have several pages in front of you. We'll just go in order as you have them on your presentation. So what we're looking at is the town of Coalhurst stats from year to year from 2020, 21, 22, 23. So it kind of gives you a good snapshot of kind of the calls for service, what types of calls we're seeing out of the town, and kind of the trend, whether it's up or down, etc. As we all know, last year was a very busy year in Coalhurst for us, and I think we've made a lot of progress, which I'll talk about as we go through these stats. So I'll go through the stats first, and then there's some other charts and things we'll go through, and then at the end I can certainly answer any questions that you may have.
Great.
Awesome. So, I mean, I know I've talked about percentages before. Percentage changes are big with small numbers, obviously, but they also point out, you know, a smaller town such as this, that there are some trends that we can certainly pick up on, and there's no surprises on here to me or our members, or probably to most of the people in town and mayor and council here. So if we go down, we start off with the serious stuff, so that's persons crimes. So the top probably 8 columns is persons crimes. So that's any crime against a person. So it's not stealing a piece of something from your yard. It's actually a crime against a person, and that's how we score those things. So the big one here for us is the criminal harassment increase, and that went up as well as the assaults. So and that's consistent with some of the families and people that we were dealing with over the last year in this community. So we are seeing, and tied to domestic violence crimes as well. We're seeing an overall trend higher in that in all our communities. So numbers are pretty low, lots of assaults, but that is again grouped to a certain, let's say 5 groups of people that we're familiar with that we have repetitive dealings with over the year. So it is a little bit higher for sure. Same with criminal harassment, and that kind of comes after we get involved, or it's part of the assault. It leads up to, criminal harassment leads up to an assault, or vice versa. So we are laying charges when we have the evidence to do so, and we are showing that, you know, and we leave it to the courts to deal with. So if we move down to total property, this is the one where, and you can see all the categories, I won't repeat them, but that's your break and enters and thefts of motor vehicles. So a pretty big increase in the thefts in motor vehicles last year, which we know about for sure. And it all seems to depend on the certain amount of people that are choosing to live or crash in Coalhurst for that period of time. So we had an increase, theft of motor vehicles, it went from 7 to 16, which, you know, in the grand scheme of things isn't a lot, but for a town this size, that's pretty significant, for sure. So that was a 129% increase. And I think we did a pretty good job of targeting that and dealing with that with our partners in Lethbridge Police and our crime prevention team. And then along with that goes your possession of stolen property, thefts under, frauds, mischief is a big one. And I think to be able to correlate why those are up so much, I think we've got the message out to call the police and report things. So whereas people weren't calling before, we're seeing a lot more calls for service, and those things are getting reported so that we are aware of it. And I think you can thank, I'm not sure who runs the community Facebook page, but I do know that when I do look at it, every time the administrator posts something, they put on there a standard message, call the police if something happens, so I think that's helping for sure. So that's where those mischief files come in. We went from 27 to 56. That's a big increase as well. But I think things are getting recorded now as well.
Can I ask a question? About this, with the theft of a motor vehicle and theft over 5,000, would they be would they be kind of the same? No, totally different.
Separate category. So any theft of motor vehicle has its own category.
Okay.
So theft over 5,000 is, let's say, a bunch of tools that equal 5,000 or more.
Okay.
Or a piece of property that's more than 5,000. It's not a vehicle.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. Then we go to other criminal code at the very bottom of the first page. So that is more the fail to complies. So somebody, let's say somebody gets arrested for assault and they get released on conditions not to contact the person, not to go to an address. We're doing curfew checks, we're doing all those things, and if they breach that, that's where you get fail to comply and breach charges, and we're seeing a pretty significant increase in that as well for this area. Go to page 2, it's perfect, thank you. It goes into some of the other categories that broad categories that we score. So you go into your drug enforcement, total drugs, total federal acts, and provincial stats, municipal, motor vehicle collisions. So as far as drug enforcement, trafficking, we had 1 trafficking charge out of this community last year. We do work with our partners in Alert and also in Lethbridge Police. So they may have other files that were investigated by them that doesn't show up on our stats, but those are from our investigations. Federal Liquor Act, Mental Health Act is always a big one. Went down a little bit as far as mental health calls for service, so people suffering from mental health crises went down a little bit, but pretty consistent. And other provincial stats, sometimes we'll get bylaw calls that we'll work with your CPO on, or other acts under the provincial statutes that aren't, they just group them all into one. We jump down to the bylaws, there is specific bylaw, so those are complaints that we take, and we'll either deal with them ourselves or we'll talk to John, and he will help us out with those. I think he deals with most of them and creates his own file system, I believe. I don't know how he runs his business, but for the most part, people are pretty good, I think, at calling the proper agency to deal with what they need. We jumped down to motor vehicle collisions. So a big increase in motor vehicle collisions. I'm not sure the reason for that. We went from 6 to 19 in 2023. People not paying attention, in a hurry, whatever. I'm not sure what the reason would be there. And then we jump down to traffic, criminal code traffic. So We had 8 criminal code traffic charges, so that's like your impaired driving, suspended driving criminally, anything related to traffic and criminal code. So pretty much impaired drivers. We did have a number of check stops in this community, or in all the feeds leading in to this community a few times. We do them all at once, so people can't get around us, and that was fairly successful as well. Then we jump down to common police activities, which are calls that we get, so 911 calls we have to deal with, respond to. We went a huge jump in 911 false calls, and we are seeing that across the south region. And I'm not sure if people are being careless, or if there's a certain number that's being called that's triggering those false 911 calls, or a non-response required. But it went from 9 to 33, which is a pretty big increase. And then this next one, suspicious vehicles property, also is attributed to people actually calling in when they see something and not just going on Facebook. I think that's the message that we've all been trying to promote is hit home. Missing persons, we went from 6 to 13 the 2 years. So, and that ranges from somebody decides, like, people can leave and they don't have to be accounted for. Like, some people just want to be leave and want to be private, but we still have to investigate it. And if we contact them and they say, I'm just taking a time out or whatever, then we conclude it. But we also have a few youth that were staying in this community that were high risk, that would just leave their foster home or the place they were staying. So those also would get lumped into there. And one thing that did not, I think it's on the bottom, yeah, spousal abuse. So that's domestic files. That's how many domestic files we investigated last year in the town of Coalhurst. So that's attributed also to, and it's just not male on female, it's any kind of spousal abuse in the home. And that's attributed to the assault charges and the criminal harassment charge you saw on the first page there. And that's kind of a wrap up of the stats drilled down a little bit. As we go, I can stop there, and if there's any questions, then I can keep going while we're fresh in our minds.
Go ahead.
So like some of these calls have NA in them. Is that just because it wasn't tracked, or is that a new thing that we're tracking, or different scenarios, or what?
Yeah, that must have been, that was before my time here, but I think NA, whether, like, I don't know why they just didn't put 0 there. I'm not sure. We haven't really changed our scoring system in the last 4 years, so I'm not sure. I don't know that, but that was, I'm not going to speculate. I don't know. I can find out though what NA means versus 0.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just a quick comment. The trend section on there, I find it's really helpful to see what's happening over time.
The which section?
The trend section, the little line.
Yeah.
I find that's really useful to just kind of even at a glance see what's going on. So I'm happy to see that included in there versus just numbers by themselves.
Yeah, these reports, they're way better at it than I am. So they have it back to me within a day. So it's very good. So I think this is more helpful than just a bunch of numbers that all jumble together. So we'll continue to provide this if that works for everybody. And then I like what you did, if we move to the next page, please.
Mike, maybe before you move on, just when you show and say like thefts over $5,000 and he says 4. So are these just reported thefts, or are these charges laid in these instances, or like what is the outcome of?
Okay, yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
These are just the number of incidents reported to us.
Okay.
There's no outcomes on this report as far as what happened in court, or whether we had enough evidence to charge, or whether it went unsolved.
Okay.
So these are just the number of offenses reported to us over the year.
Okay.
Okay. File count, so she also did up a nice file count from 2019 to 2023. So you were pretty consistent from 2019 to 2022, and then we had a jump of a couple, 200, 240 in 2023, which we are aware of, and did some proactive things in the community, I think, with and to deal with that. Second gives you the month by month calls for service, and yes, June and September seem to be were the busiest months for crimes being reported or committed in the town of Coalhurst here. Keep going to the next. So this is for 2023, the types of files. So again, it kind of helps you see what types of files that we're most frequently dealing with. So it gives you a kind of a snapshot of that as well. And then the last page is the time of day that we are getting these crimes reported. So the redder it is, the more frequent. So between 8 and 4 is the highest volume of us getting calls. Obviously people are sleeping. People wake up at 8 and find that their car's gone or something like that. So kind of just gives you an idea of when we are getting calls for service. And it's not, it's pretty consistent that we're getting calls 24 hours a day. Not unlike any other community. Any questions on any of those graphs that I just went over pretty quick? I think they're fairly self-explanatory, but I think it's a nice snapshot for everybody.
Yeah, that's really great information, and I have to agree. I think that the way that this is presented is really clear and to provide that context. So
okay.
Thank you for this.
Yeah. And then I can just, if there's no questions on that, I just have a few general things to discuss. So just some of the efforts. We identified and knew about 3 particular residences in Coalhurst. We involved our partners at SCAN, which is the Safer Communities and Neighbors, which is run by the sheriffs, and we work hand in hand with them. We were able to shut down or evict and close 3 residences last year in Coalhurst. So I think that's a real positive, and I think that is attributed to the call volume, touch wood, that's gone down in the last few months here for sure. So we'll continue to do that. We had a really good meeting with the communities, with the community. We had our town hall. I think that was very informative, a really good turnout. We can continue to do that as well. We had Project Cold Start, where we had members come through when it was really cold and see how many vehicles were running, unlocked, open. It was pretty good in Coalhurst. I do know in other communities it was almost 100% vehicles were left open and running with the keys in it. So things, we left brochures on their vehicle and trying to educate people there. So that's always good reminders. We're back into our schools. Each officer has been assigned to school. I know that in Coalhurst at the elementary, Constable Short has been in there, made his introductions, I believe, twice now, and is scheduled to do some presentations or participate in their lockdown drills. So I think that that's something that's long overdue as well. We have a large volume of schools in our detachment area. I think we have over 20. So it's a pretty big undertaking. It's not something that we can do weekly, but our commitment is to the schools that my officers will be in once a month to at least touch base and meet the staff and the principal, and I think that's a positive thing as well. On February 22nd, we had, if you remember, Carolyn that did a presentation for our crime prevention. She and her unit sponsored 12 steering wheel locking devices, and they came to Coalhurst and they looked for people driving certain vehicles that were targeted, and they contacted those people, went to their door and provided them a free steering wheel lock, the old club, I guess you'd call it, for those of us old enough to remember the club.
Thanks. Thanks, appreciate it.
Well, it was on the TV, right? The infomercials. So we handed out 12 of those, and it was a really positive initiative with some good feedback. We did have one person refuse it and say they weren't interested, which is fine, but we'll continue to work with our partners in our crime prevention units to do that. I know that I spoke with you about victim services and how the province has, they're going to change the way that program is rolled out in the province entirely, and that was supposed to take place or be in effect April 1st. They're behind or not behind, they're just not ready to make the transition yet. So we still offer victim services through the old program. They split it into 4 regions that match the regions of the RCMP. And they're going to have, I don't know what they're called, directors, CAOs, something like that, for each of the regions that will oversee. So there'll be a Southern Alberta District Victim Services Director, Coordinator that will have a tree of staff, and they will offer the same service, they tell us, through that. The problem was that it wasn't, I think we had like over 50 victim service units in Alberta, and they were all being run differently. Mm-hmm. So they want to try and add a consistency piece to it, where it's, whether you're in high level or Coalhurst, you get the same program and the same things that you can deliver to the clients. So that is, I've been told they should be up and running and transition fully by September 1st of this year. So I'll keep you updated on that. I'm not sure, since our last meeting, Sergeant Dave Marintet, if you remember Dave, he came with me to most meetings. He has left and has transitioned, took a promotion. He's in Beaumont, up by Edmonton, as the detachment commander there. I have a new sergeant coming. His name is Sean Dutch. He should be here in the middle of this month. So I will also bring him and make introductions when he arrives and gets settled. That is all that I have. I'm certainly open to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. Any questions from council?
Question/comment, thank you. Just about the stats, I think that's really great that you've included them. So kind of moving away from the crime severity index then, like that way of presenting statistics?
Yeah, I mean, we have 20 different ways that I can bring stats to you, but I think to keep it easy to interpret, and like Deputy Mayor indicated, the graphs, and it just gives you an idea of trend, a quick snapshot for sure. Crime severity will still always be part of our scoring, because we have to report to StatsCan, and that's how they designate communities on that crime severity index. But the only thing that's not included here, as the CAO pointed out, is, it doesn't show how many went to charge, how many went. But then again, that'd be very complicated and convoluted. It's not that I can't provide that to you, but if there was a specific area that you would like, I could provide that. But I'm not sure that you'd want 12 pages of stats, but I'll leave that up to you folks to decide.
No, I appreciate the stats given, and I think it's been really nice to see you guys out and about in the community and see the vehicles around. And I know for me that it sometimes just gives me a feeling of peace seeing the vehicles, and so I'm hoping that it's contributing to people calling more and feeling safe in our community, really.
Yeah, we can't take our foot off the gas, right? We got to keep moving forward. I know, speaking with Sean, he sits on the corner there, and he definitely sees a lot of police cars coming in and out, and they're always going to the same areas. And that's reflected on the calls for service, right? And we are in the community at all hours of the day, because we get those calls, and we don't phone police. We have to come and deal with it. But I think the communication is important, and if we continue to have our yearly town hall and bring education and kind of mix it along with some crime reduction stuff from our partners, I think we're in good shape moving forward here.
Other questions?
I was just curious if you heard any updates on the changes to the amendment, the Police Amendment Act, and if they're going to station more sheriffs in your detachment at all, or?
That is something that I am not probably privy to.
That's okay.
Yeah,
just curious if you did know anything. That's all.
So I can tell you that the sheriffs have created a warrant apprehension team now for the province. I think there's one out of Edmonton, one out of Calgary, maybe one out of Red Deer. And so what their priority would be is to work with us to top 100 people with outstanding warrants, the most serious, the ones that they can't find, and then they would target them and basically surveillance and have the time to do that, whereas we don't necessarily have that time. So that is something they're going to undertake.
Like the FBI or whatever.
Well,
Whatever.
yeah, no, it'd be more like if you're watching American TV, the DAA guys they show up. Except I can't just kick a door in and run in and do all those fancy things that they do down in the States. But as far as to answer your question, the RCMP is still committed to, and we are the contract lease for the province of Alberta till 2032, I believe. I'm not sure what the province, they've said a lot of things in the past.
I'm not sure there's.
There's no movement right now to make that switch, but I'm not sure where that's at up in head office.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Just another comment I wanted to make. I don't know if you guys received a lot of feedback, but I know one of the residents in town was close to one of those houses that was shut down, and they said that it's been night and day difference since then, so they're very appreciative of what has happened in the community. I know it took a while, but they're feeling a lot safer now.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks. I'll pass it on to the guys and girls there. But sometimes these things take some time because we need the proper evidence to move forward with some of these acts that like SCAN follows, but we just need to know about it, and I think that's happening now. People understand that they need to report to get more action, so. My time's up.
No. I know, right?
Just in time.
Well, thank you so much. I have to say that I think you really heard us when we said that community safety was really important to us, and I really appreciate like all these things that you were talking about, like whether it's Project Cold Start, even just having the constables coming out to the schools and things like that. I think that you really did hear what we were saying and wanting people to feel safe in the community, and so for all those efforts, just thank you so much, and also for this really great information today too. I think it really kind of demonstrates what we were looking for. So
you bet.
it's great. Yeah.
No problem.
And he's always been very good at coming in and speaking with me and just checking in, and so it's much appreciated.
Yeah. This type of format, are you thinking like I could probably do this twice a year with this, so you get a mid-year kind of snapshot and then a year end? We do like June, July, like July.
Yeah. That would be great.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right.
And then I think that the town hall was really great too.
Mm-hmm.
I think people really appreciated that, and so if we could look at doing that even annually as well.
Yeah, for sure. Probably not a summer thing. I think more the fall.
Yeah. Yeah.
September. I think that's when we did it last year.
Yeah.
I remember October, I think.
Yeah.
So for sure.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great night.
We'll try. Safe drive home, everybody. It's
Yeah, it's
getting
snowing
ugly
there
again.
now.
It is Alberta. It is winter.
Yes, that's true.
All right. I feel like I'm sorry. I'm sitting with my back.
Have a good night.
Yeah, you both as well.
All right. Shall we just carry on? Okay.
Oh, wait, hang on, he's on.
Okay. So at this point, we'll just carry on to staff reports.
Did we do minutes? Did I miss minutes?
We did minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was very quick.
I know. I'm very efficient.
You did great.
Sometimes I do forget them though. Okay, so we'll move right on to staff reports, starting with the CAO report. I'm going to go to council to see if there's any questions on the report. Go ahead.
Not so much a question, just a comment, just with regards to the ICS training. I think that's fantastic to get the staff involved in that, and that's something that we've historically been lacking, so I was very, very happy to see that coming through.
Good, thank you. Let's be a busy couple of months in training. Ms. Henning and I are also going to be embarking in a few weeks on emergency alert training as well. So, couple that with specific role, agency role training, and ICS 300, it'll be, yeah, there's a lot of work upcoming, but I think it's positive stuff.
For sure.
Great. Councillor Poetry?
Just had a question on the meeting with circular materials. It says talking about having for curbside recycling collection contracts and new some agreements in place by 2026. Is that with Coalhurst, or that's just in general with their facility?
So this will be sort of 2026 is sort of the, I might have to refer to my notes here a little bit. So this process will be that by 2026, the goal is to get everybody into curbside pickup, which will come at the producer's expense. In the meantime, we'll be working with them to work out an agreement with the recycling depot well in advance of 2026. That could be early next year, late this year. And in between time, they'll be working on RFPs, looking for companies and organizations to take over contracts for collection services for recycled materials. So it won't necessarily be Coalhurst, or it certainly may be Coalhurst. It depends on how that program rolls and what it looks like. Certainly from our perspective, we certainly will have interest in looking at doing contract works through the EPR. But we'll have some time to work with council in terms of what that looks like. And obviously it has to have a benefit for the residents of Coalhurst to embark upon that. But it's certainly going to be a switch. And we've asked about the impact to the consumer and what that's going to look like from dollar and cents perspective, and it will vary across the board depending on the products, the packaging, the recyclable materials that are produced by those sale of particular goods. So it's going to be very much a wholesale change, and it's come actually a little quietly. But I know our council is interested in exploring curbside recycling, and it does look like that this will be an offshoot of this program that will likely be coming to Coalhurst as part of the EPR program, which will allow us to actually take the cost of the recycling depot off of our utility bills, because that cost now will be transferred over to the producers themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah, I know I was curious about it because I did attend the session at a municipality.
Yeah.
But I was like, yeah, on the municipal side, it was not a financial impact, a significant financial impact, let's say. So
Yeah.
it was mostly on the producers, right? So
Yeah.
it was an interesting approach to.
It will actually, it'll save our residents and any municipal residents the cost if they're already doing a curbside program. Then that will go up for bids to see who's going to oversee it, and then that cost will then be deducted from the municipal utilities and passed on to the producers through the consumer chain. So they have some wholesale changes coming. So in the meantime, we will be looking at developing our own curbside program at this point. And also we've embarked on that waste stream grant was the county and a number of other partners. And obviously this will now have to come out of that program, because now we'll have to concentrate more on solid waste management as opposed to recyclables. So things are changing quickly.
Other questions?
No, that actually answered my question, thank you.
Great. All right, thank you for your report. And it's exciting to see that there was it 22 applicants?
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Did the first interview this morning.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I'm looking forward to that. So we'll move on to the Community Peace Officer report. Again, go to council to see if there's any questions on this. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, through the mayor to the CAO. I just have a question about the sidewalks. There was a post the town had put out about advertising for a contractor to clear was that ever needed to use that service?
Hasn't been so far.
No? Okay.
It was really a backup support, but we have engaged a contractor.
Mm-hmm.
And we won't only be using them for sidewalk clearing in the winter, but but also yard maintenance in the summer for those who tend to not maintain their properties. So it's a year-round program. Obviously, the goal is not to have to, but I doubt we'll get out that lucky. And for those that don't maintain their property to shovel their sidewalks, it's now a bylaw that we're putting a lot more enforcement emphasis upon, and now we have support from the private sector to get that completed at the residents' expense.
Just a question on that. Does that also include like empty lots?
Yes.
Okay, that's great.
It is a bit of a new take on it, though. I understand there's not been a lot of enforcement done in that area in Coalhurst. So we're gonna have to support it with some education as well, right? I mean, the idea isn't to come in heavy-handed, but we do want people to recognize that their property influences the look of other properties around them, and that everyone should be held to the same standard, and we'll be starting to move towards that.
Great, thank you. Did you have any other questions?
Yes, I have some questions. I was actually hoping John would be here tonight, but just about the renewing of the dog licensing. I was one of the lucky people that got called for not having mine in on time, so that was fun. But I guess is there a strategy to encourage other individuals to register their dogs for the first time? It would be interesting to know, because I bet that there's a lot that aren't registered at all, right? And how might that be encouraged? And at the same time, I'm just gonna have to put in a plug for that animal control bylaw again too, and looking forward to seeing that coming back. It would be really good to assess the service level in this area and to see,
No plug required. It's definitely on the list, and it's really me that's held that back, honestly. I know Carlene and Jeff did a lot of work on it, and I just need to really resurrect it and give it a final go through. Yes, there are a number of individuals who don't have their dogs licensed, and we tend to run into them. They also tend to be the ones that are loose. So this is a care and control issue with the owners of animals. Unfortunately, it's rarely the animal's fault. They can't come in and apply for their own license typically. So maybe some education from our comms team, just to remind people, and obviously we have a lot of people coming in. Our staff are fairly diligent in contacting those, and it is a bit challenging because over the course of a year, a dog can pass away, and that's maybe why they haven't come in to renew, that kind of a thing. But it's an ongoing process, I guess, to just educate people that it's really for the dog's protection. You know, should it get out, we know whose it is, we can get it returned to their home. It's not a cash grab. We don't make a lot of money off of it, and the time it takes to administer it probably eats up any revenues we take from the program. But that's something I can certainly work, or have John work with Christy and see if we can put a little push on, just ensuring those dog licenses. We have had stuff in our newsletter, I believe.
Not on that topic.
Not on that one. Have I seen some Facebook posts?
Just of animals that have been captured by our CPO and needing to make our best efforts to find the owners.
Okay, so I know that the staff does contact previous owners, and so we'll see if we can put a little push on just to remind people to come down with their dogs licensed.
Awesome, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll move on to Director of Legislative Services report. Again, it is in front of you, and we'll see if you have any questions for that. Any questions? Go ahead, yeah.
I was curious about the guidelines for report writing. Is that like this report, like the administrative? No.
Maybe through the mayor to Councillor Patry, the report writing guidelines would be a document that provides guidance for both working and diligent, and also would provide kind of a tone to the reports that council would be receiving as well. So just a style guide, a language guide as part of that, just to help with onboarding and consistency in writing for council.
Awesome, that's great. Thank you.
Any other questions? No? All right, thank you for your report. And then we'll move on to the Director of Operations report. Again, go to council. Go ahead.
Through the mayor to the Director of Operations, just about number 7 there, the Transportation Master Plan. In our budget documents, we had allocated, I think it was 310,000 annually.
Yes.
Through the, is this part of that same project?
Yes.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
Go ahead.
For number 3 on the grants that we submitted, or expressions of interest, I guess, are those like a 50-50 type of thing, or like what's the percentage that they cost cover?
Thank you, Councilor Poultry through the mayor. We don't know yet. This is just typically an expression of interest. So they're looking for feedback on how many communities would be interested in it. Then they'll base on how much money they have to allocate. If there's a lot of interest, I imagine the percentage will go down. Typically though, we did apply for one for this building through the TAME grant, which was also through the Municipal Climate Change Action Center. And I think that one was either 50-50 or 60-40, something around that number, but we won't know until they've done their evaluation.
As a follow-up question, I'm wondering, were they offering any type of funding for envelope upgrades as well, or is
For which, sorry?
envelope like insulation?
There may have been. It was very generic. It was just basically on anything to improve fossil fuel, right? So there could have been something like that. But I focused on a couple of things that I know that we do need to upgrade, which one is our furnaces at the community center. They're a maintenance item period, so that's the 2 items that I focused on.
Okay, thank you.
And Kevin is already working with MP on this year's streets and sidewalk
Yeah,
tendering.
yeah, that I'm hoping to have that. I actually have a meeting tomorrow on that to finalize.
Hello.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Just finishing up with this item here.
I can.
No, come on in. We're just finishing up with this report, but yeah, absolutely, come on in. Is there any?
It's right here.
Okay.
Any more questions on the report?
Yeah, sorry, can I just ask one more follow-up question about the road plan? So is there any plans in place to upgrade the sidewalks in the older part of town, like where there's not necessarily easy ways to get onto them? So some of the areas like around, kind of like behind the pub and stuff, I'm not sure what road that is, but when I'm walking around with my stroller, there's no
Curb cuts?
Thank you. Yeah, curb cuts. And I know that it's hard for me in a stroller to get up, so it must be super hard for somebody in a walker or a wheelchair to get up, right?
You
So,
know, wheelchair access?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that I would do out of my operational budget
Yeah.
as well, for upgrades and things like that, which is separate from this.
it's separate from this?
Yeah, it's something that we can do though.
Okay, so it's, okay.
You're talking right on the corner to go across the.
Well, I like, so when you, I should have looked at this better, but the roads, yeah, so it's the curved one, it is spruce, I think. They don't all have the end things, right? So you can easily get up on the sidewalk. Like some of them, the older parts, they're skinnier sidewalks and they don't have the bump ups. So you just kind of have to like jump onto the sidewalk. There's no easy way. Yeah, yeah.
I thought we had the majority of those dealt with, but if there's specific ones, let me know. For sure.
Okay, and I know that this is something I go off about a lot is bump outs, and I understand that they cost a lot of money and it's not just a simple boom, it's done, but it just in the looking through the lens of accessibility, it's something that I think is important. So, but I will for sure let you know which ones.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Anything else?
Ooh, no.
All right. Well, thank you.
I will say that the sidewalk and street priorities have been mapped out in the review, and so we're obviously gonna start with the ones that need the most work and,
Well,
ish.
Yeah,
Not specifically, but.
the best, and that's one thing where a lot of residents may say, my street works, why wasn't it fixed first, right?
Mm-hmm.
What people have to realize is that it's our best value for the dollar.
Yeah.
An example of that would be if you have a street that's already needs total reconstruction for $1 million, and you've got 3 streets that if you leave them any longer, they'll get that. You may want to overlay those to protect them first, because this one is failed now, and it's gonna be failed next year or the year after. So you may put some money to overlay, which is a quarter of the cost of reconstruction. So it is a very in-depth process. The document is 250 pages to determine where the best dollar value is spent. So, but that's a common question is, this street was worse than this one, why did you fix this one and not this one? So,
I was speaking more along the sidewalk repair.
yeah, sidewalk, we're gonna do the majority of the major trip hazards and everything first year.
Yeah.
Awesome,
Great.
thank you.
All right.
So if anyone asks, we're not willy-nilly in the road and sidewalk repair.
There's some
and
thought.
replacement.
But I don't think anybody thought you were willy-nilly in it, but.
All right, well, thank you. Hi. Thanks for coming to join us in person.
I aim plays.
There you go, that's great. You can come and take a seat over here if you'd like, or you can stay there, it's totally up to you.
It works. Is this the hot seat?
It is.
Okay.
How was the drive? Snowing quite a bit now?
Yeah, it's definitely from Calgary. It's not pleasant.
Okay,
I've seen worse,
yeah.
but it's not ideal. But you know what? Never gonna complain about the moisture.
True.
So
True, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah.
So how's everyone doing?
Good.
Good.
Yeah, how about you?
Doing well.
Yeah.
It's busy times, but things are going well. And I just came in from Calgary, as I mentioned. I was there for 2 days of meetings, and then I'd stop in person and surprise everybody. Kind of
Nice.
threw Caroline off the scent a little bit by saying I'd jump online, but
Definitely did.
I'm great at surprises.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Do you want to hear from me, or do you want to fire with questions?
Yeah, so why don't we do it, well, if you wanna kind of update us a little bit about, anything about the budget or about your ministry, things like that. And then we have some items for closed session as well that we'd like to speak with you about.
For sure. So with the, I'll go constituency-wise, just been doing a lot of town halls wherever possible. My time is getting split even more so where I'm out or running around the province with the ministry. So whenever I'm back, I'm doing town halls. So I have one in Vulcan on Wednesday or Thursday evening this week. And then also meeting with town councils and really just kind of responding to whatever the needs are. A lot of meetings getting set up for AM and RMA. Supposed to going, those are getting set up, but not a whole lot really to report with the ministry. We just released our tourism strategy. Very excited about it. It's been a long time in the making, and I consider myself like the running back who got it over the goal line, but there's been a lot of people who took it down the field, previous ministers and department officials. And it focuses on a number of key pillars, not the least of which is the education component, building careers in tourism, not just jobs, and working with post-secondaries on that front. Also looking at Indigenous tourism, so creating authentic Indigenous tourism experiences for travelers within the province, within Canada, and then coming from outside of Canada. Those are in very high demand for what we call high-spending travelers. And then we have our resort development piece, which we feel very strongly about, and that is taking our pristine landscapes and developing them responsibly so that we can have more four-season resorts for Albertans, Canadians, and visitors from abroad to experience. And so there's a lot of heavy lifting there, a lot of work with my other ministers in cabinet to get that over the hump. I like to think of myself as the window into cabinet for the tourism and the sports sector, as I don't have the ability personally to make amendments to the MGA or make changes to land use policies, but the minister is responsible for that, and we're collaborating with them, so we're getting it right. On the sports front, we had a great announcement recently that we're bringing, we have 6 major international hockey events coming to Alberta. So there's 2 Halika Gretzky Cups, which is the U18, the world's best U18 players. That's in 2024 and 2026. We have the Canada Rivalry Series between the U.S. women's national teams, and that's in December 25 and January 26. We have the Para World Ice Hockey Championships in 24, and then capped off with the IIHF World Junior Championships in 27. So really excited about that. And then of course there'll be 4 development camps through between now and 2027, each in the summertime. And the nice part about all of this is we're scattering this all through the province. So it's not just Calgary or Edmonton's getting it. Like it's going to be, we're going to try to make sure we get exhibition games and host other games in other city centers. So whether it's Medicine Hat, Lethbridge, Red Deer, Grand Prairie, Fort McMurray, like we want to make sure we're really spreading this wealth around because whenever we have a chance to host these events in smaller communities, I think the communities do a great job with it and they show the best Alberta has to offer. So it's really exciting that we get to host those. And we have just more cool stuff we're working on, bringing sporting events to Alberta, hoping to host all kinds of major tournaments and such from around Canada and even bring some more international competition here as well. So that's the ministry. Budget just came out, but the budget is balanced again. I know there is some feedback, concerns about not introducing the tax bracket for the first $60,000 of 8%. I definitely understand the concerns from Albertans, but I also need to recognize that we also made a campaign commitment to run balanced budgets, and if we were to run a deficit after cutting taxes, I think that'd be a bit imprudent. And so the Minister of Finance is actually in Lethbridge today and talking about the budget, and so I can take questions a little bit on it, but I'm still kind of working through all of it myself. But recognize that I think it's a stable, balanced plan going forward. Recognize the need to invest in infrastructure and important pieces in Alberta, but also put money away to the Heritage Savings and Trust Fund and pay down debt. So that's a whole lot, real fast. Hopefully, I didn't go too fast for you, and happy to take any questions you might have.
Yeah, we'll put it through council, see if there's any questions. No? None? Okay. All right, there we go, it's pretty easy. But we do have some things that we'd like to talk to you about in closed session. So can I get a motion to go into closed session?
Sure. I move that council enter closed session pursuant to section 21 and 24 of the Freedom of Information Protection and Privacy Act. Enter closed session at 6:53 p.m. to consider the items Alberta transportation plans, infrastructure planning, and Coalhurst High School.
Great. So Deputy Mayor's made that motion. Any discussion? Call the question, all in favor? That's carried. All right, can we get a motion to go back into open session? Go ahead.
I move that council enter open session at 7:20 PM.
Excellent. Council Portree's made the motion. Any discussion? Call the question, all in favor? That's carried. All right, so now we're just gonna move on. We jumped around a little bit today. We're gonna go to, we have one administrative inquiry regarding the solar project statistics, and this was submitted by Deputy Mayor Ackerman. Is there anything else that did it fulfill your questions, or do you have more questions based on this?
No, I thought this was great. I was just kind of curious how we were looking after a year.
Okay.
In operation, so I appreciate the information from administration.
Any other questions from council?
He's gonna ask you.
There you go.
Have a good night.
Thanks, have a good night. All right, if there's no further questions on that one, we'll move down to our committee reports. The first set of meeting minutes that we have, I guess their draft minutes is from the IDP committee meeting. And maybe what I'll do is I'll get Councillor Florence to, if you'd like to speak to it a little bit, you're so welcome to.
Okay, so we thank you, we had our IDP meeting with the county. So we talked about the IDP, which is the purpose of the meeting, but we're at the 10-year mark of the overall plan. And in it there were short, midterm, and long-term goals. And we talked about them being looked at and brought back to the committee, so our planners are going to do that. We also talked about the rezoning application and the KIP area structure plan, as well as the home development occupations around Coalhurst. So some things are coming up from this, so business arising, there's a few things, and I know that Sean's looking into some things, but other than that, we're going to meet annually, and as well, we did extend an invitation to their council for a social gathering, so looking forward to following up with that. Yeah. I don't know if you have anything else to add.
No, but we also had a quick discussion about the MOU with the road and about probably a little more detail about the KIP area structure plan and what options we have maybe moving forward to collaborate to the benefit of both municipalities.
Yeah, that was good.
Great. Any questions from council on this? If there's none, we'll move on now. We have the draft minutes for the Emergency Advisory Committee. Again, Councillor Florence, you're on this committee, so maybe if there's anything that you'd like to highlight?
You know, I might just pass this off to CAO Patients to update us.
Sure.
Thank you.
So this was really a bit of a follow-up. We had met in November and we had a quick virtual meeting again in January to review our emergency management risk assessment appendices. So this meeting was really, I brought back a new updated version of the emergency management plan for the committee's consideration. One of the purposes of the Emergency Management Advisory Committee is to provide guidance to council on the emergency management plan itself. So I had the opportunity to meet with Jerry from AEMA. We went through the emergency management plan checklist to make sure we covered everything off that checklist. Actually, is part of your council package tonight. We managed to cover off all the missing components from the last review in 2023. Made some improvements, added some sections on procedure. Updated all of our contact lists, etc. So we brought them back to the committee. There were some minor amendments and additions to the contact list that were brought forward by the committee. Those changes were made and the motion was passed to recommend the emergency management plan to council for passage. This plan will be in place only until a regional plan is approved by all of the regional councils. But it's important that we have an updated program. I will also say that the committee is expecting that the risk assessment was coming as part of this. But I will say that when I got into Alberta Emergency Management through MA Connects, that their scoring system was different than the template that was provided by our consultant, so I now have some adjustments to make to that particular document, and I will say that Matthew Conte
Yeah.
had done a lot of work on MA Connects, so I just need to supplement it and add to it and update it, and I'll be entering it into MA Connects, and at which point I'll provide council with a copy of that risk assessment. It's really just an appendix, as well as our bylaw, the regulation, and the Emergency Management Act. So it's a component of the plan with appendices that we can add later, but I would look for, we'll have a conversation in closed session about the plan itself. We'll be looking for a motion later in this meeting to have council approve that plan, and we can distribute it amongst our organization.
Great. Go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to add one more thing. I think that we just need to mention that Sean has done an incredible amount of work on this and put it into getting us up to a standard where we need to be. And so just super appreciate all the work that you've done on this, Sean. And I know that it's just a short-term thing, and so it was a lot of work for a short term, but looking forward to what it would look like from a regional perspective too. But it's right now, it's really exciting to be not like where we need to be. So thank you.
Appreciate that. And none of the work is for naught.
Yeah.
All the information will move forward into our appendix portion of the regional plan. So all that work was necessary anyway, and this way at least it formalizes and keeps us on the up and up with AEMA.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you, I do appreciate it.
Great. Any questions on this? There's none. We'll move into our council reports. I'll get started with mine here. You can see all of my, all the meetings that I have attended in the past little while. Just to highlight one thing, I did an interview with Global Lethbridge just on the community grant program. And I did that on February 23rd, so that was one thing that was a little bit out of the ordinary. And then I am up to Edmonton this week for Alberta Municipalities, Safe and Healthy Communities. And we had our Recreation Master Plan Committee meeting today, which was really quite good. Got a little bit of an update on that, as well as participated in an activity that looked more at our values to see kind of like where they should be focusing some of their, what that should look like. And so some of the things that was within there was just related to our values in terms of what do we want recreation to look like in our community. So we talked a little bit about, I expressed like the accessibility component and things like that. And so that will help them as they're going forward and doing that report. Awesome. So, is there any questions on anything there?
Yeah. Do we have any idea of timeline for the Rec Master Plan?
Did they give us that?
No, not really. It's something I'll be having a conversation with them about. They plan for the next meeting for April, but I think they're working on the consultation plan at the moment, right?
Okay.
Yeah. All right. We'll move on then to Deputy Mayor's report.
Thank you. So just kind of summarizing everything there, one of the standouts for me was the Economic Strategy Committee. So one of the things that we were looking at there was we were categorizing the government responses on advocacy efforts. So those are the resolutions that we had at Alberta Municipalities Convention, and just, you know, we look at a matrix and say, okay, you know, we're gonna keep engaging with them, but this is the amount of manpower that we're gonna put into it, right? So we look at kind of what they are and how that's going through. We also had questions for some of the MLAs for the Spring Leaders Caucus, so they can be a little bit more pointed instead of just individual municipalities. It was more province-wide issues that kind of came up there. We had a presentation from the Parliamentary Secretary, MLA Shane Getson, which was fantastic. I believe I shared the information that I got from them with you guys, and that was just like on economic corridors. And then one of the things that came up later was the RETA funding model discussion, and then that kind of ate up a little bit of time. Beyond that, the only other thing that was a little bit out of the ordinary was today I attended the post-budget luncheon with MLA Nate Horner today. That was in Lethbridge. I left my book that I had at home, but he was just kind of hitting some of the highlights for how much the spending was in different categories, and then he had an opportunity to answer some questions. One of the takeaways from that is once they set the budget ends up in the different ministries, and then they do with it what they want. So he can't direct people to spend it on certain things within there. So once it kind of gets there, they have to accomplish all their goals within the amount that they're given. So a lot of the things, like I know readout funding was one thing that came up today, and when he's talking to the Minister of Jobs, Economy and Trade, that was talking about reducing the funding there, he said, you know, it's kind of his decision how that money gets spent, but at the same time he can speak positively about the impact that Arita has, but that decision is no longer his at this point. So that was something that I didn't quite fully understand before I went there, but I thought that was interesting to hear of how it breaks down and then how the decisions actually get made for how the spending is made. One of the things that I wanted to talk about too was at the economic strategy meeting, Economic Development Alberta has a campaign contest for kids in grade 9 through 12 about why they love Alberta. More information can be found at lovealberta.ca, and then it's a challenge designed to engage students in understanding the world in which they live, focusing on citizenship, identity, and quality of life. The goal is to have students share in their own words why Alberta is a great place to study, work, and live. So I thought that was a pretty neat highlight that came out from that meeting, and I just wanted to share that with the community in case anyone wanted to get involved and put forward an entry in there. I don't know what the winning prize would be, but it's all on the website.
That's great, thank you. Any questions? Nope. All right, we'll move on to Councillor Florence's report.
Thank you. So not a lot to report. I did finish up the EOEP Council's Role in Service Delivery. That was a really amazing course, and if you haven't done it, I would highly recommend it. It talks a lot about service delivery and assessing service levels, and so hoping to see some more of that in the future in terms of just what we can do to put our service levels on paper so it's easier to assess and look at it from a budget perspective. Also, something that I think is important is the telephone town hall with Rebecca Schultz tomorrow. And so it's just about preparing for the risk of the provincial drought. And so I think our Director of Operations will be there as well. And then the Highway 320 Development Association, they put booths at Egg Expo and the Home and Garden show and other events. So I get to help out with the Home and Garden show booth for like an hour. So looking forward to that. And then I did do just the professional development report for the LGFF webinar that Alberta municipalities put on. And that is about it. Thank you.
Any questions? No? Go to Councillor Poetry.
Thank you very much, Tina. So I attended some Green Acres meetings there, the Finance Committee meeting, my first one, and the board meeting. We discussed some options about getting a community opinion survey. We decided to not pursue that and look at professional development instead. Looking at research that's already been done in the field rather than kind of do our own research. So we thought that would be more effective. The executive is trying to meet with a few MLAs there and trying to get some movement for the Payani Lodge. And then, yeah, still not moving anywhere. I haven't heard anything about this budget, but I don't. There would be. I was hoping there would be. We are moving forward with hiring some professionals to assist with lobbying the government and training board members to be more effective advocates and communicating with the government. So that should be really interesting. And I think if I learn things, I'll certainly keen to pass them on to our council to enhance our advocacy strategies as well. And then we're still looking at the partnership with LCL. We're reviewing the terms, and then won a couple awards. The Best of the Best for Lethbridge 6th straight year, and the non-profit. So the Wetlands and Habitat Committee. Scott and I had that meeting, and we worked through the guiding principles and the schedule, and then trying to get some more members as well. And we are taking, I guess, a very methodical approach to it, but we're soon jumping into projects coming at our next meeting. Yeah, that'll start to get exciting then, more exciting then. MSDA was canceled, and I was unfortunately not. I missed the rec master plan. Unfortunately, we worked with it that ran over time, so I'm glad at least Lindsay made it. So.
Great, any questions? No? Okay, let's move on then to our correspondence. Does anybody want to speak to any of these items? If so, I can go through individually. Is there anything, Brianna?
Well, just, I mentioned this in close, but I just think it's just with the letter 13.3 from Minister McIver about the town of Coalhurst fire training.
Okay. Did you want to speak to it?
Well, I think it's a really cool thing that we've been approved for this grant application for the 2024 Fire Services Training Program, and I think that it's giving credit where credit is due. So thank you to the people that applied for it and the government for supporting this training plan, and it's a really great thing. Good job.
It is. It's really exciting.
We're a fire chief that made that application.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's so good.
That's excellent. All right, if there's nothing else for correspondence, we can move on to other business. So the first one that we have for 14.1 is a request that we received from the Royal Canadian Legion, branch 273. So you will see this in front of you. The request has been put to us. And what I might do is I might get our CAO to just provide more context around this, then we can ask any questions that anyone might have.
Thank you, Mayor Montina. So, as you recall, last year in the fall, the Legion branch here was advertising for families to sponsor banners, memorial banners for Remembrance Day for veterans from Coalhurst, or families from Coalhurst. They were successful, and I want to say 9 or 10. The challenge was we didn't have anywhere to put them, so we scrambled and got approval from Fortis for those number, and I'm sorry, I should have had that at my fingertips. I believe it was 8 or 10. Anyway, council certainly seen them, but it's not as easy as the process sounds. First, we need to get approval from Fortis on which poles we can put them on. We have to buy specific brackets that have spring-loaded holders on them for wind. And the Legion was proceeding, and is still proceeding, to seek out more banner sponsors. So I had a conversation with Crystal and said, last year we kind of jumped in late, and it was very late. I think we got those banners up about 2 weeks maybe before Remembrance Day, and then of course we purchased some seasonal banners to go on those same brackets, so we're making use of them, and we're still working on what we're going to do with them for the summer. But they're continuing to seek sponsorship, so I requested that she put in a request to council to continue to support the program, because last year we really pulled it out of our event budget, and which isn't necessarily an appropriate venue for that expense. So Mr. Lewis has put in a request to Fortis for additional poles, which we haven't received yet. But I thought it was important that council determine how much we want to continue with this program. And my thought was, A, we've got two issues. One is like, where would they go? And B, how are we going to fund the bracket portions of them? And for council information, by the time we purchase the brackets and hire a bucket truck to get them installed originally, we're $300 to $350 a piece. So if we're looking at another 10 this year, we're $3,000 plus. So I didn't want to just absorb it in our operating budget again, and I thought it was important that council had some influence on this. So I've got two thoughts. One is we do have a funding venue for this that council could utilize. And secondly, perhaps the location of these should go to the enrichment committee, because it really does play a bit of a role in beautification over the rest of the year outside of Remembrance Day. Which avenues they would go on, etc. I mean, typically these are a main drag type of application, but we've got a number of poles we can't put them on. so they're a little bit scattered, but it's.
Fortis poles that you can't put them on?
Yeah, so you'll notice that I think we've got them on wooden poles right now, if I'm not mistaken. Poles with transformers, we can't put them on. So they're not as organized probably as you might see in other municipalities. Not that that's a big deal, but we are moving towards ordering some additional banners, additional seasonal banners. The ones we purchased for, actually I should know this, it was 10. We purchased those season's greetings banners for Christmas at a cost of around $900. Now our staff can put those up without any outside assistance, literally off of a ladder to change them, but the brackets themselves have to be installed out of a bucket truck. So I just bring this to your attention to see where you would like to go. We do have a carryover reserve that has around $90,000 in it still, and so you know the MSI operating that we utilized in 2023 offset regular expenses in the municipality. So the funds that haven't been used were put into a carryover reserve in there, so there's about $90,000 in there. So that would be my suggested funding avenue if council wanted to go that way, so I'm just looking for some direction.
Great, thank you. Any questions from council? Go ahead.
Yeah, just with regards to the Fortis and having permission for the banners to be put on the poles, is there any thought to future poles and just asking ahead of time when they're installed if there is the option of that? I think just being proactive in that sense would give us an idea of not having to come back to them all the time and say, hey, can we do this after the fact? But if we know going forward. Beyond that, my personal thoughts are I don't mind supporting the program within reason. I also do believe that this could fall in the community enrichment enhancement, and then they could make a recommendation, is kind of my thoughts on this.
So if I might maybe respond to that, Mayor Montina, one of the challenges we have going forward is that unless we get more development along the main drag, say 45th or 223, most of the new developments, internal inside residential subdivisions, which is normally where we don't put this kind of an application. But yes, to answer your question, yes, when they put those up, we certainly can have them put in with plug-ins for Christmas decorations and banner arms to facilitate. We don't only have to ask for this if we can and which ones, but how long they can stay there. So currently we only have approval for temporary banners or for the banner arms we have on a temporary basis. Honestly, they're not going to pull those poles down, but this is a matter of process with Fortis. So yeah. Okay. Unfortunately, a lot of 51st Ave poles, we've got metal poles, gooseneck, we have power poles, wooden ones. We've got power feeds coming from the alleys to support the lights themselves. It's a bit of a mishmash. It's not nice. And it's something we can look at as we go down the line. Yeah, a much larger project than it looks like from the onset, I guess, let me say that, to replace them all. And so you've got a nice, yeah, you know where I'm going, corridor sort of entrance way.
Questions from anybody? Yeah.
So just to be clear, you're not looking for a motion today, you're just looking for just a general thought on it?
Well, let me say this. They are and have been promoting more banners for the Legion, so I just thought it was a good time to get this in. We do think we can fund this through that particular venue. It will be up to Fortis as to where we can put them, and maybe up to the enrichment committee as to where they think they're most best suited. The Remembrance Day ones are only up for, say, a month. So it's got to work for the other 11 months too, which is why I thought that the committee should have some input. So it would be good to get a yay or nay from council, so that I don't get the Legion going down selling 10 more banners and we don't have funding to support the arms, right?
Yeah.
If we did a motion, what would the dollar figure be for that motion?
That would be up to you, I would think. Like I said last year, I think we were in about $3,000 last year.
So if the budget was 3,500 or something?
Mm-hmm.
You could do that.
Then at least they would know what they've got for 2024, right?
Oh, there you go, 3,500.
Yes, Arlene's good.
So I guess I just have a couple of questions with this. Because as you indicated, it's 1 month of the year. And then if you're saying a banner is $90 approximately. Like we know, like we have those ones for Christmas at this point in time. But we don't have, you can't leave those ones up all the time, obviously, right? So you kind of need to consider that it's not just necessarily for the brackets, because then the brackets are kind of, if you're only using them for a month. So then it's looking at a couple sets of banners, I would assume.
Yes.
And so at that point, we'd be at 20, right? So that's $1,800 for just to put for one set of banners.
Mm-hmm.
So in reality, this is looking at closer to $7,000 or $8,000, right? If you were to kind of put that in there.
I would suggest 5,500 at the outside if we're buying 2 additional sets of, 6,000, I guess, but because we'd have to add 10 more seasonal greetings banners as well, right?
Yeah.
So yes.
So it's more than just the brackets at this point, I guess is what I'm trying to say with this.
It's not also necessary to have other banners on them, but we figure if they're up, we might as well utilize them.
Well, exactly, right? Like, because why just use them for a month type of thing is the way that I look at it. Another question I have is with our committees, we didn't actually do any budget allocations for those committees at all, right? We were
Not this one.
basically like, if there's a project, it needs to come forward to council for approval. Okay. Okay. Does anyone else have any additional questions?
So the $6,000, how many banners? How many different banners does that allow for then?
So I would have 3 full sets of 20.
3 full sets of 20, okay.
Yeah.
Because it would be nice to have, like, I'm just thinking, like, if you've got something during Remembrance Day, Christmas time, something that would be like beginning of the year and then minor days, right? Like,
I was gonna say, even if you had generic town Coalhurst on there,
yeah,
you could fill the gap between,
Yeah.
or you could mix them up if you don't wanna have a full set of 20 for Christmas, you could do alternating or whatever, right?
It's likely what we'll do. It's just welcome to Coalhurst, something like that, something colorful.
Any additional questions? Would anybody like to make a motion on this at this point?
I'll move that, Council.
Okay.
I move the Council Direct Administration to work with Fortis and the Royal Canadian Legion 273 to determine the location and number of additional banners on the light standards with Coalhurst for a budget of up to $6,000 allocated from the carryover reserve, and more further move that Council Direct Community Enhancement Advisory Committee to determine the banner program for the town of Coalhurst and report back to Council by fall.
It can be fall, can it? That's too far.
By September, no?
No.
But we don't have a meeting on, I don't know. How long does it take to develop a program?
Really, I think all we'd be looking for in this case is locations.
Okay.
Like which avenues they feel are most appropriate, basically.
So then we could say,
Instead of program, maybe banner locations.
yeah,
And we meet monthly, right? That committee meets monthly?
yeah,
And we've got a meeting this week and then, again, next, so it probably could be for like sometime next month or
I
April or
suppose.
May.
Yeah, sure.
Let's go with the first meeting of May,
There you go.
whatever that is.
You just-
The end of May,
2024, yeah.
There you go.
and then it's open.
Yes.
There you go.
All right, is there any suggested changes to this? Good?
No suggestions to the motion, sorry.
Okay. So Councillor Petrie has made the motion that council direct administration to work with Fortis and the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 273 to determine the locations and number of additional banners on the flight standards within Coalhurst for a budget of up to $6,000 allocated from the carryover reserve. And further move that council direct the Community Enhancement Advisory Committee. Isn't it Community Enrichment?
It is.
Yes. Community Enrichment Advisory Committee to determine a banner location for the town of Coalhurst and to report back to council by the end of May 2024. Councillor Petrie, would you like to speak to this at all?
I think this is just one small step we can do and to improve the appearance of our town, as well as work with our local organizations to create a greater sense of community in our town and work with our local associations to do that. So I think it's a win-win for our community.
Great. We'll go through and see, we'll start with Deputy Mayor. Would you like to speak to this at all?
Yeah, I guess I look at the 6,000 and it seems like a lot, but at the same time, when I look at our strategic plan, when we're talking about making the town an attractive place to be, one of the things that I remember personally, the first time I came through town, we actually had Canada flags up on 51st, and that really stood out to me. So I think although there is a fairly large price tag on this, I can see the benefit of having that presence there, right, to stand out, at time of remembrance and showing we're honoring the people that helped build this town. And then if we're using that throughout the year, it does send the message, and it adds that personal touch and charm that I like about a community, right? It's not just another cookie cutter suburb. So I think, I think that this is a good idea.
Great, thank you. Councillor Florence, would you like to speak to it?
Thank you. Yes, I would. Well, I do love the banners, and I think it's a great idea. I guess at this point, I would be looking for more information or an RFD to support the $6,000. For me, what we have here is a letter from the Legion looking for interest, and I'm not sure that it's making an informed decision to just kind of toss around numbers without having concrete information to decide to fund it. I agree with Deputy Mayor Acumans that it makes the town an attractive place to be, but I think that to me would be one of the things that we could give off to the Community Enrichment Advisory Committee to look at it and see how it aligns and make a recommendation for not just where they should go, but also for the amount that should be funded. I also think that there's opportunity, and I know that even Fortis has some granting programs, but there might be opportunities for some grants for this kind of thing. There might be a possibility of chasing something down with the Legion as well. This came from a letter from the Legion, and it's now evolved into something for our whole town, and at this point, I would not be in support of it just because I don't feel I have enough information and would like to see a few more details on this.
Great. And for myself, I think it looks really pretty when there's things up on the poles when we come in. My concern about this is that it's not part of a larger strategy. Mm-hmm. And when we're talking about, we're just talking about the different poles being different, right? Does that mean should we actually be looking at that and fixing that before we do something like this, right? And investing that amount of money into this. The reason why I I went with I indicated up to the $6,000 is because I don't think that it makes sense just to put those things up for 1 month of the year. I think that if we're going to do that, we need to leverage them better. So I would actually like to see more thought put into this, just to know that what we're doing is actually making sense and having more information about, where they go. And maybe that's something that the Community Enrichment Committee actually does, is look into this a little bit more, so then it can come back to council for review and potentially for approval at that point in time. We'll go down the line again, see if anyone would like to speak. Councillor Petrie, did you want to close or did you want to speak now?
I don't think I can close.
Okay, go ahead.
I appreciate your comments, Councillor Florence. I think that having more information would be beneficial. That's why I was I'm kind of feeling like it's a good idea, but I'm kind of torn on the price tag of it right now with the information that we have. So if we had a little bit more concrete numbers on this is what it's gonna cost, this is what it's gonna look like, I would be more supportive of that. So I think if we could have that maybe go to the Community Enrichment Advisory Committee and then brought back to council with more of an RFD package with the numbers, that would make me feel a lot better about making this decision.
Council Ford, would you like to speak?
Yes, I would. Thank you. I just wanted to add that I think in terms of communicating with the Legion on the intent of the banners, I think that we're on board with the intent of having them here. So I would hope that would be the message going forward to the Legion. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay.
No, that's fine. Yeah, no, that's fine with me. That's why I wanted to come in back here, because I wanted council to be comfortable with the program and how it was rolling out, so. Then perhaps we need to withdraw the first part of the motion and just use the second part of that motion and just instead of banner, change it back to, instead of banner locations, banner program.
Just process wise, we vote on this motion and then we would do a new motion. Okay.
Could you move to amend it?
At this point, I don't know, right?
At this point, because the motion is on the floor,
Yeah.
vote on the motion, or a council member can propose an amending motion to this motion.
Okay.
Listening to the conversation, it sounds like council wants to go in a different direction, so I recommend voting on this motion and writing the motion.
Okay. Councillor Coalhurst, would you like to speak to close?
Yes, I would. I guess the sentiment that I'm hearing is that we're not sure if $6,000 is appropriate or accurate or whatever. We're not sure. It sounds like yes, banners sound like a good idea, but we want some more information as to location and if $6,000 and more of a plan. I guess, I don't think there's any problem with doing it a different way. I just don't think there's going to be a different outcome. I think we're still just going to be back here and make the same decision. But if you want to go through the process, that's completely fine with me. I'm still in favor of just proceeding like this because I feel that the information administration has given us is appropriate. I mean, it's verbal, it's not in a written RFD, but I feel like they've given us the information that we need to make this decision, and I don't think there's a need to go back. So I think it stands as is. So.
Good, thank you. I'm now going to call the vote. All those, okay, so Councillor Coalhurst has made the motion. It's written there. And so I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? The motion is defeated. We did have some discussion. Would anybody like to make the motion? Go ahead.
I move that council direct the Community Enrichment Advisory Committee to determine a banner program and location for the town of Coalhurst and report back to council by the end of May 2024.
All right, does anybody have any questions on this motion or any suggestions for it? If there's none, Councillor Florence has made the motion that council directed the Community Enrichment Advisory Committee to determine the banner program and locations for the town of Coalhurst and report back to council by the end of May 2024. Would you like to speak to this?
No, I think that it was all kind of laid out in our previous conversation.
Great.
Thank you.
Would anybody like to speak to this at all? No? Good. All right, so this motion has been put forward by Councillor Florence. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? And the motion is carried. Okay, we're going to move on now to Councillor Coalhurst. Green Acres Foundation Board Retreat. I like that you're finally going in for this one with our remuneration policy. This is excellent. All right, so Councillor Coalhurst, maybe I'll just turn this over to you. I did see that you had some information attached there, but maybe if you'd like to speak to it.
Other than that, it's a lot of work just to try and get some approval to our meeting. So I hope you read it all thoroughly.
I did. It was excellent.
So the Green Acres Foundation has a board retreat scheduled for this coming May 9th to 11th, which overlaps with the Association of Architects BAF sessions, so I'm really miffed if I have to go to this thing instead of the Alberta Association. But I know it's important in our community to go to the Green Acres Fund. So I would really like your support in going to this meeting. And I've outlined all the rest of the details, I think, there for as much as I know at this point. So.
Excellent. Does anyone have any questions on the information that was provided? Go ahead.
Just for clarification, this is seeking to receive a stipend from Green Acres?
Right, so the policy states that where no stipend is provided, right, under where is it? Which section is it? So under, the definition of external, oh, not that one, sorry, no, where is it? Oh yeah, no, extraordinary compensation, that's what it says. Number three, extraordinary compensation. Sorry. It's different than the one, there. Members of council may be paid an additional sum at the rates described below for participation in exceptional meetings or events if no stipend is provided. So in this case, Green Acres is offering to provide a stipend, so I would not receive these remuneration rates, but the stipend provided by the organization is my interpretation of that.
Okay. Yeah, I was just seeking clarification on that.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I just have a question of clarification through the mayor to Councillor Coalhurst. So, actually, no, I don't have a question. I'm sorry. I'm gonna pass.
Okay, any other questions? All right, so with this, Councillor Coalhurst, I saw that you had a motion
Yes.
prepared.
Yes, and I'll make that motion.
Okay.
I move that council allow my participation in the Green Acres Foundation Board Retreat and Strategic Planning scheduled for May 9th to 11th, 2024, and further move that council allow the receipt of the stipend provided by the Green Acres Foundation for attending this event.
Great. Is there any questions on the motion? No questions on the motion. So it's moved by Councillor Coalhurst that council allow Councillor Coalhurst's participation in the Green Acres Foundation Board Retreat and Strategic Planning scheduled for May 9th to 11th, 2024. And further move that council allow the receipt of the stipend provided by the Green Acres Foundation for attending this event. Councillor Coalhurst, would you like to speak to this?
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity to provide feedback to the entire board as to what the priorities are for Coalhurst. And I think without my attendance there, we would be at a disadvantage in terms of moving our strategic priorities forward, in terms of our housing for seniors and our, I guess because we're lacking facility really, of all the communities, we're one of the ones that lack any kind of facility. So I think it'd be a valuable opportunity to give that feedback to the board and provide, I guess not feedback, but create the direction for the board for the coming year.
Thank you. We'll go down the line again and we'll ask council if you'd like to speak to this. We'll start with Deputy Mayor. Would you like to speak to this at all?
I guess just a quick comment is I think that there would be a benefit to having you there to speak on our behalf. I know strat planning can really steer an organization one way or another, so I think if you're cheering on Coalhurst, I think that would be a good thing. Looking at the extraordinary compensation, I do believe that this kind of would be under the exceptional meetings, because typically when you're sitting on the board, you wouldn't be looking at multi-day retreats as like standard operating procedure. So this does seem like one of those above and beyond situations to me.
Great. Councillor Florence?
No, nothing maybe.
For myself, I would have to agree with this. I think that you found one of the situations where we were wondering what this would look like in terms of the extraordinary compensation, and I am in support of this. Would anybody else like to speak? Councillor Coalhurst, would you like to close?
I wasn't trying to find a loophole, but I do think my time is, I have to take time off work to do these types of things, so I don't think it's only fair if I'm going there in Coalhurst's behalf, that I am compensated for that. And yeah, you're right. I don't think it was ever planned that we would be attending multi-day things without any kind of, yeah. Yeah, there's not part of the forethought into the policy, I guess, or maybe it was part of the forethought that was left out, but yeah. That's, yeah, so.
I hope you don't think that I was indicating that I thought you were trying to find a loophole. I just meant that this is the first time this is coming forward to us, which is good, right?
Yeah.
Because I know some of us had said, like, when would we ever use this? So I think that this is great that you're bringing this forward.
Okay.
All right. With that, I will call the vote, or I'll read this again here. So it's moved by Councillor Potry, that Council allow Councillor Potry's participation in the Green Acres Foundation Board Retreat and Strategic Planning scheduled for May 9th to 11th, 2024. And further move that Council allow the receipt of the stipend provided by the Green Acres Foundation for attending this event. Call question, all those in favor? That's carried. Now you're going, is this in Cochrane?
Yeah, near Cochrane, Ghost Lake.
You're going there instead of Banff now.
Dang it. Supposed to defeat that.
All right, and then we just have a couple of closed item sessions. So can we get a motion to go into closed, please? Sure, go ahead.
I move that council pursuant to sections 17 and 24 of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act enter closed session at 8:05 to consider items 15.1, partnership program, and 15.2, committee applications, and 15.3, draft emergency management plan.
Excellent. So Council Florence has made this motion. Any discussion? Call the question, all in favor? That's carried. Great. Can we get a motion to go into open?
Sure, I move that council enters open session at 8:20 PM.
All right, any discussion? Call the question, all in favor? That's carried. And then we do have a couple of motions that are coming out of our closed session. Would somebody like to make the motion for the appointment?
I move that council appoint Lisa Lambert as member at large to the Community Housing Advisory Committee.
Excellent, thank you. Councillor Poitry has made that motion. Would you like to speak to this at all?
It's great to have community members coming forward with such skills, bringing forward to our committees and contribute to making Coalhurst a better place. And you know, as we have a vacancy on the committee, it's good to have some community members joining in. So it's great. I'm proud to support this motion.
Great, thank you. Councillor Florence, would you like to speak to this at all?
No.
No? Would you like to close, or are you good? Okay, I will call the question. All in favor? That's carried. And then we have another proposed motion here for the emergency management plan. Would anybody like to make that? Go ahead.
I move that council approve the 2024 emergency management plan as presented in closed session.
Excellent. Councillor Florence has made this motion. Would you like to speak to this at all?
Just that it's been on the books for a while. I'm excited to see this plan be able to be at the council approval level.
Great, thank you. Would anybody else like to speak to this?
It's important.
Good, excellent. Councillor Florence, would you like to close, or are you
No,
good?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. And then finally, we have another motion here. Go ahead.
Sure. I move that council approve the appointment of Sean Patience as the interim director of emergency management.
Great, so that motion's been made by Deputy Mayor. Would you like to speak to this at all? No. Would anyone else like to speak?
No, thank you.
Maybe just a comment, I guess, for anyone watching, like that. We know we have a larger system, a regional system coming on board soon, and so you know, this is I guess until that system comes on board, really. And so I don't know if there's anything else to say to that, but yeah, we do need to have chain of command clear, so we do need to have it down.
Great, thank you. Would you like to close? Good. All right, we'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. And